or $16.98 for CD plus $3 shipping to Statler Brothers, P.O. Box 8250, Atlanta, Georgia.
This is CNN.
The voices of the voters. They have been loud, angry, and heard at every turn this campaign.
But could you make a commitment to the citizens of the United States to meet our needs? And we have many, and not yours. Again, I repeat that.
Today, your questions for all three campaigns.
This is a special edition of Newsmaker Sunday with Frank Sesno.
And welcome. Thanks for joining us on this special edition of Newsmaker Sunday. Normally, Newsmaker Sunday airs at 10:30 a.m. and 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, but since President Bush joined us today, we bring you this special edition at this time so that we can feature your questions, as promised. As many of you may know, we have a segment on Newsmaker Sunday called Your Turn, where we invite our viewers to write in with questions for our guests. 2 weeks ago, we decided to devote this entire show, just 2 days before the election, to your questions for each of the campaigns. We asked you to write, and you surely did. We've been positively flooded with mail. The questions were, for the most part, excellent, tough, thought-provoking, and relevant. I fear some of us in this business may find ourselves looking for work yet. So we selected the questions based on their clarity and diversity of subject matter. And joining us to field them, the Bush representative, Labor Secretary Lynn Martin, the Clinton representative, advisor Frank Greer, and from Dallas, the Perot representative, Ross Perot, Jr. Welcome to all of you. Here's what we'll do. I've got the letters here that we've selected. We'll go through them for Clinton, for Bush, for Perot. We'll move through them quickly. I'd ask you to answer them succinctly and directly and to the point, and I reserve the right for a follow-up. First, we start with you, Frank Greer, a question for the Clinton campaign from Todd Hayes of Charlotte, North Carolina. My family is facing the prospect of long-term care for 2 family members. The cost could approach $60,000 a year. The federal government offers no assistance until you allow yourself to become impoverished. What is Governor Clinton's plan to address this issue?
Well, I think that is really an excellent example of the kind of human tragedy and suffering that people are going through because of a lack of any effort by this administration to deal with the health care crisis. Bill Clinton has said since the beginning of this campaign that one of his real priorities is to put in place a national health care system that would also provide long-term care. But first, we've got to control cost. Costs in this country are out of control. We've got to take on the insurance companies, the big drug companies, and we've basically got to have some kind of cost control.
But what would you be doing for families like the Hayes?
Well, within 5 years, and it would be a phased-in program, they would be provided health care and long-term care under the Bill Clinton plan. And it's a written plan. That's the other difference. I believe everybody's talked about health care in this campaign. Only Bill Clinton really has a plan. Ross Perot does not have a plan. And Mr. Bush has a plan that will only make the insurance companies richer.
Well, Mr. Bush has a plan that I think he says would address the problem too, but I do want to move on. That one was addressed to Clinton. Now a question for the Bush campaign from Kelly Freeman in Quincy, Florida, Madam Secretary. Why is it that those of us who have a deep concern for the environment are labeled environmental extremists? And why is the Bush campaign ignoring this important issue?
I don't think it is ignoring it. Certainly the president signing the Clean Air Act, certainly the president is spending more money with the EPA. But he does believe, and I think most Americans believe, that there has to be a balance. You have those that would argue almost that there can't be any humans on a planet. That can't be done. When you look at something like gas standards, the CAFE standards, that would put Michigan and Ohio and Illinois out of work, I think you have to say, wait a minute, they technologically don't make sense and environmentally would not be the way to go. So the answer is there are some extremists. There are people that, you know, don't want anyone to wear leather, for heaven's sakes, or eat meat. And most Americans would say, no, we're making other judgments. But this president has made a full commitment to the environment, and I would just say the Clean Air Act has to be the perfect example.
And Al Gore is an environmental extremist.
Mr. Gore's book, and I've only read part of it, so I don't want to claim to be an expert, suggests a carbon tax that would, in effect, put the entire Midwest out of work.
He's not proposing it in this campaign, and it's not part of the...
Well, you have to...
even propose a
now, just a minute, Frank. I'm going to shut you off because we're going to go side by side.
But they keep lying about these things.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying that on my recollection is, and I don't remember the page, but he talks about the 125 million. All I am suggesting that in those cases, we happen to disagree. You're allowed to in this country,
Okay,
but the commitment to the environment is clear, clean. Whether it's water, air, in our future, we all have to be committed to it.
Let's move on to the next question. This one is for Ross Perot and the Ross Perot campaign. Here we go. From Kathy Rowland in Waco, Texas. Mr. Perot has mentioned that lobbyists are the root of all evil and should not have a part in our federal government's decision-making. If he feels so strongly, why did he hire so many lobbyists to help him reform Texas education? Okay, Mr. Perot, have at it.
Sure. Number one, we don't say that American lobbyists are the problem. We're talking about the foreign lobbyists. That's the problem. Number two, on education in Texas, Ross Perot, like he'll do in the country, he went down there, he understood the rules of the game, and what he did is hire the top lobbyists in Austin, put them on his staff so the opposition couldn't hire them. That made it easier for him and his team and the parents to pass education reform. It was passed, and it's done an outstanding job for the children in Texas, and that's how it worked.
Next question for the Clinton campaign from B.J. Chippendale of Mineola, New York. Ross Perot, it's a Ross Perot question, has proposed an increase in the gasoline tax of 10 cents a year. Why shouldn't Americans pay as much for gasoline as the rest of the world, assuming that the money generated is plowed back into infrastructure and mass transit?
Well, I think what we've seen over the last 12 years is that taxes on the middle class have gone up while taxes on the rich have gone down. And basically, middle-class families in this country deserve a break, and that's what Bill Clinton is offering, a tax break.
But
it's a regressive tax. It is a regressive tax that I think hits hardest at working families, middle-income families, and we wouldn't be in favor of that.
Okay, Lynn Martin, your turn now. This one, I told you some of these were tough. Here's a tough one.
Okay.
This one, well, that was a tough one, too.
I thought that was pretty easy.
This one is from Luann Walker of Albany, Texas. And she writes, if we can go into the conflict between Iraq and Kuwait to protect our oil supply, why can't we go into Somalia with enough military force to take control and feed and care for the starving and dying people there?
Certainly anyone, I don't care who you are, who's seen the pictures of the children. I say that probably as a mother, and I'm not sure George Bush would say exactly the same thing, but your heart weeps. I mean, God must weep at what's happening to children. But I must say there's places all over the world. America can't go everywhere every time. We are, of course, sending aid. We are sending help. People ask about Bosnia, about Serbia. All questions that a president has to answer. If you look at why we moved into Kuwait, we did it under and with the aegis of the UN. 27 other countries protected the source, yes, of oil, because it could have been incredibly destructive. But the answer is that each incident, each area has to be looked at specifically, and I think it's true that force would not be the answer.
All right, last question before a break to Ross Perot, Jr. This one is from Marion Simmons of Tucson, Arizona, and it's a very relevant question. I don't believe I've heard Ross Perot respond to this. What criteria would Mr. Perot use in submitting Supreme Court nominations?
Very simple. He would pick the best man or woman for the job, regardless of political party, and he would get the highest quality people that understand the Constitution, understand the American people themselves, to help set the policy, the legal policy for this nation.
Would his Supreme Court nominee, for example, have to pass any tests on the subject of abortion or something like that?
We're not going to get into a litmus test game. Back to the best person for that job. That's why Perot can do it, and that's what's nice about Ross Perot is he's not tied into any established groups. He'll only go for the best.
Simple enough. When we come back, a tough question on the draft for the Clinton campaign. Stay with us.
Joy of driving become a casualty of the times. Introducing 200 turbocharged horses. Uncanny grace. And one of the safest cars Saab has ever built. The new 9000 CSE. A car you can drive hard with your conscience intact.
Con man Thomas Johnson is running for Congress.
It's the con of a lifetime.
And speaking out on gun control.
Been like a nice warm Uzi.
On taxes.
Read my lips.
On the economy. And on sex education.
Hey, 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 hey.
Eddie Murphy, the distinguished gentleman.
Yeah, I'm the man.
Rated R. Coming December 4th to theaters everywhere.
Here's an opportunity to receive a free copy of William F. Buckley's controversial essay, In Search of Anti-Semitism.
I want to share something with you that's very important and especially enjoyable to me. It's Bill Buckley's National Review. When you get National Review, you'll find it's informative, probing, challenging, and very entertaining. It's not on many newsstands, so this may be your only chance to get a trial subscription.
For a trial subscription to National Review, call 1-800-257-1257.
And continuing on with our special Your Turn edition of Newsmaker Sunday, this question to Frank Greer for the Clinton campaign from Dan Jacoby of Merced, California. Should it become necessary, he writes, to implement the draft, Governor Clinton would have the legal authority to draft me since I am 19 years old. But where is his moral authority to punish me if I say, hell no, I won't go?
Well, first of all, Bill Clinton has said that he believes that the president has a responsibility if you go to war. And we went to war in Vietnam. 50,000 young Americans died, and there was no declaration of war, and there was no public support for the war. He feels it's important that a president explain the action to the American people and win their support.
But
and when you
answer?
do, just a minute, and when you do, I believe then you can require people to serve. But let me finish one other thing. The important thing also is to realize this is an issue that people have raised over and over and over again. The fact of the matter is, Bill Clinton is supported by Admiral Crowell, who was Ronald Reagan and George Bush's, head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the fact of the matter is, every admirals, generals, all kinds of military people have said that he would be an excellent commander-in-chief.
What Dan Jacoby just asked is, where is his moral authority if he, Dan Jacoby, wants to be a conscientious objector?
Well, first of all, we allow for conscientious objectors in this country, and the fact of the matter is, we would not go to war unless the American people supported that war, and I think that's Bill Clinton's position.
Next question, just as tough. It's on the subject. This one's for George Bush, so Lynn Martin, here you go. Nancy Johnson, Eustis, Nebraska, writes, since Bill Clinton's service record is so important to the Bush campaign, why didn't any Bush sons serve in the military? Was it disappointing to their father?
I have no idea. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't answer about the sons. The draft has been over. People are different ages, and I believe his children, I'd have to think, are in their 30s when there wasn't a draft. Now, I would think each parent would allow, whether it's Bill Clinton with his daughter or whether it's George Bush with his sons and daughters, to make a choice about a military career. But there was no draft, I believe. But I truly can't give you an exact answer because I don't know the kids.
Fair enough. To Ross Perot Jr. for the Ross Perot campaign. This question comes from Pam and Spiro Kriatsis of Houston, Texas, down not too terribly far where you are. Though his war record is extremely admirable, why should the American people believe that Mr. Stockdale is capable of taking over leadership of the country if that worst-case scenario ever happened?
First thing, let me correct one thing. Young George Bush did serve in the military as a fighter pilot in the National Guard.
Thank you.
Lynn, on that point. Second point, Admiral Stockdale, number one, is a man of great principle. He is a great leader. He is certainly one of the finest Americans living in our country today. Ross Perot picked Admiral Stockdale because what we need in Washington today is strong, moral, and intellectual leadership. Admiral Stockdale is the perfect person for that job.
Okay, moving on now. Now, I'm happy to say that when we requested these questions, not only did we get questions from voters, but questions from erstwhile voters and would-be voters and voters of the future. So we have a letter here from the 4th grade class of West Hempfield Elementary School in Irwin, Pennsylvania.
Terrific.
And Frank Greer, this is for you and for Clinton. It sounds pretty easy, but it just might be a trick question. The question is this. Will Bill Clinton do for America what he did for Arkansas?
He will indeed. And Bill Clinton made a commitment to the people of Arkansas that he was going to work to improve education, create jobs, and improve the economic situation of his state. And you know, he worked for 12 years to fulfill that commitment. And a testament to that is the fact that he's been elected by the people of his state 5 times. Bill Clinton has improved education. He's been a national leader in education reform, and he's created jobs. As a matter of fact, Secretary Martin even said that he had created jobs at an enormous rate.
Now you've done it. Now we've got to call Secretary Martin in there. Go ahead.
And Frank knows better than this. I said the only way you could even call that would be if you remembered how low the base was in Arkansas.
What do you say to the 4th grade class?
I'm afraid that they're absolutely right. He would. 50th and average income, median income for a family of 4, 50th in police protection.
This next question.
And he also said he wouldn't run for president.
This next question is for the Bush campaign from Bill Bart of Smoketown, Pennsylvania. I'm sorry to be moving you along, but I want to get as many of these questions in because I think they're terrific.
They are.
This one. Is it honest for James Baker to be labeled Chief of Staff, devoting most of his time to the re-election campaign? And am I paying his salary?
Well, first of all, a slight correction. I think he's called counselor to the president. He's not chief of staff, but a slight correction. At the same time, he is managing all the affairs of the White House. I suppose we could ask, should the people of Arkansas be paying while he's still governor? And those questions Americans have to ask. But
is he
I would
being
think,
paid?
Oh, sure. Of course he's being paid, just as Bill Clinton is being paid, and I'm being paid,
Okay,
and perhaps Frank is. But that's, I don't know for whom Frank works.
Taxpayers are not paying my salary.
To Ross Perot Jr. for a question directed at the
I was getting paid.
I'm sure you are.
You probably need it
I'm
least
sure
of all,
you are,
though.
yeah.
This is free.
This one from
This is free
This
today,
one is
too.
from the St. Agnes Boys High School in New York City, and it is from Leonard Romano. Due to the economic situation this country is in, attending a state or private university has become very expensive. What do the candidates, and that we're addressing this question to you in this case, plan to do to make more financial aid available to people who qualify for it?
Basically, education is a cornerstone for growth in our country. We have to have an educated, talented workforce. Ross Perot will make sure that the men and women, the young people in this nation that want to go to have higher education will be able to afford higher education. Projects like the GI Bill, etc., will continue to be modified and improved to allow young people in the schools the best money we can spend as a nation.
Okay, Ross Perot. When we come back, questions about the economic plans of these three candidates. Stay with us.
Since the dawn of time, man has studied the face of the beast. Now you can witness nature as never before. Life magazine and WNET present the world's premier wildlife cinematographers who ventured into the jungles, traversed the Arctic wastelands, and explored beneath the seas to produce the best wildlife footage ever seen. These are breathtaking images, the choice moments from one of the most highly acclaimed nature documentaries in the history of television. Life magazine proudly presents one of the finest wildlife videos ever produced, the greatest moments in nature. This extraordinary program from the Nature Video Library took years to document and is available nowhere else. And now this collector's video can be yours free with your paid subscription to Life magazine. You'll receive 13 issues of Life, including 2 special issues, The Year in Pictures and 40 Years of Rock and Roll, all for 4 monthly payments of only $7.97 each. Life magazine is the picture monthly that keeps you in touch with the human side of major events and takes you behind the scenes to the colorful, touching, dramatic, and personal stories of today. Let Greatest Moments in Nature take you on a 45-minute journey into a world that few people have ever seen. Call now and receive a video that will open your eyes to the wonders of nature. Amazing, magnificent, and best of all, it's free. So call now and get this spectacular nature video and 13 issues of Life, including the 2 special issues, The Year in Pictures and 40 Years of Rock and Roll. Take advantage of a wildlife offer that won't last long. Call now.
Continuing with our special Your Turn edition of Newsmaker Sunday, your questions put to all 3 campaigns. To Frank Greer from the Clinton campaign, this letter for Bill Clinton campaign from Shirley Doran of Charleston, I believe it is, South Carolina. It looks like there's a letter missing here. And her question is this: if Congress passes the spending programs Governor Clinton wants without spending cuts, will he sign the bills or insist on spending cuts first?
Well, he said, as a matter of fact, that if the money is not there to accomplish the programs he wants to accomplish, he's going to basically slow down those programs or cut back. The fact of the matter is he has issued a very comprehensive plan to invest in this economy, put people first with education and training. He also has proposed higher taxes on people making over $200,000 a year, lower taxes for the middle class.
We have a question on that coming up, so hold your thoughts on that one. We'll get back to it, I hope.
But what he has also said is that he will not increase the deficit, and if necessary, he'll cut back on the programs.
Okay. for the Bush campaign, Madam Secretary, from Flo Weiss of Seaside, Oregon. President Bush says he wants to cut government spending and make government smaller. Why then does he have the largest White House staff in history?
He's even offered to cut back, and just so you know quickly, and I hope the Congress takes it up on him, he'll cut back White House staff, the Congress will cut back its staff, and I think all America will benefit.
Why does he have the largest White House staff in history?
That's grown too. We've also had more people, but either way, you can probably, there's a way to say everybody should be there. I say cut it. We've cut in our department. We're ready to cut some more if we have to.
To Ross Perot then. From Pat Gibson of Redwood City, California, how can Ross Perot get Congress to go along with his proposals as an independent party president? Please be specific.
Well, basically, Pat, Ross Perot is an outstanding leader. Ross Perot has the ability, since he comes to Washington without any strings attached to either party, to work with the leadership of the Congress, sit down with them, build a consensus, and get those bills passed. Look at what he's done throughout his business career, throughout his political and humanitarian career, with his war on drugs program. He got some of the most comprehensive war on drug legislation passed in the history of Texas. He got the best education program passed in the history of Texas. He has built huge business operations. If you're a great business leader, you've got to be a team player. It's all done by teamwork.
All right. Here's a question for all the candidates. I hope we're going to be able to get through this quickly. It may be one you don't know. This one is from Gary Mitchell from Pompano Beach, Florida. Have Governor Clinton or the other candidates accepted campaign contributions from the healthcare industry? If so, why should the American people believe what they say about improving our healthcare system?
Well, first of all, I don't know the answer to that question in specific, but just a moment. He has said that he has offered a concrete program to reform health care, to take on the big insurance companies and the healthcare industry to control costs.
Lynn Martin?
Federal law precludes taking corporate contributions, first of all, and I'm sure Governor Clinton hasn't either. Secondly, the president has also said, let's get rid of PACs. Now, does some individual work for someone? They would be allowed to give, but there is no industry contributions not allowed by law.
Any PAC contributions or healthcare contributions, Ross Perot Jr.?
No contributions to anybody but Ross Perot. And basically, the trial lawyers are going to have to sacrifice in this program, and the insurance companies have to sacrifice in this program if we're going to get health care back in line.
Okay, it's my turn actually on this, because when we got that question, we went and we did a little homework. According to the National Library on Money and Politics, to the Clinton campaign, he has taken some $518,000, the campaign has, $518,000, and $400,000 of it came from healthcare professionals, doctors, dentists, and others. Of the $518,000, $28,000 came from health products companies, and the insurance industry contributed another $133,000.
Well, I think we're talking about individuals in those companies.
Okay, fair is fair. The Bush campaign took $1.1 million. Of that $1.1 million, $700,000 from healthcare professionals, $100,000 from the health products industry, and the insurance industry contributed an additional $432,000.
No, I mean, in fairness, for both candidates, you know, federal law does say, and they don't have, either of them don't have the money of Mr. Perot, that they can't take corporate, but if you mean
no illegality.
The
question was asked and answered, as we say in the business.
Right.
Now, I'm going to be in very big trouble if I don't ask you this question. It's terribly difficult. It's from my mother. If she writes
Great
in,
question
I better go.
The best
Very
question.
serious question on the subject of the developmentally disabled. She writes, during the past 12 years, the government has been on a dual course, legislating laws and at the same time sabotaging them. She cites legal aid services, tampering with Social Security eligibility, and to Lynn Martin, then, I address this question to you. How does this presidential candidate deal with federal responsibility when it is expanding requirements and cutting the pie?
Well, first of all, I think the best answer is to just say the ADA, the great Civil Rights Act for individuals. Secondly, there's a commitment in everything from even parts of Head Start to making sure that the law is totally not just enforced, but part of it. I think he's proven it already.
Okay. Thank you very much. I would have loved to get some more answers on that, but we're just about out of time. But we will have one further note and some more letters from you right after this.
It's gone. But it isn't.
Now you can get strong medicine in a cough drop.
It's gone, but it's still working.
Medicine's so effective, the drop keeps working even after it's gone. It's Extra Strength Vicks, with a full dose of Vicks Vapor Medicine in every drop to relieve your cough and help your scratchy throat and stuffy nose feel better. Extra Strength Vicks, so strong it keeps working even after the drop is gone.
It's still working.
This is an effort to reach men and women who served in the United States Armed Forces. It concerns benefits reserved exclusively for honorably discharged veterans age 45 to 75. please use the toll-free number to respond. You are eligible if you served during peacetime or war, active duty or reserves, or any branch of service.
Are you getting all the benefits you're entitled to as a veteran? Chances are you're not, unless you've already gotten this package from Veterans Life. If you missed out on GI insurance, or even if you just want to add to your current protection, you can still get a good deal on term life insurance at the rate of just $1 a week. Call this toll-free number to get all the facts by mail. Inside, you get straight talk about the features you want most, like guaranteed eligibility for both you and your spouse. And when you qualify, you can lock in the highest possible benefit amount. It will never go down. That's guaranteed. You get all this and more for as little as $1 a week. For veterans who want more coverage, higher amounts are also available. You can choose 2, 3, up to 5 full units of protection. Call now, and you'll also get this free guide to veterans' benefits. It's filled with facts about government benefits you may be entitled to collect.
Veterans, call 1-800-525-7700 for your free information. You'll also get the free guide, plus a discount prescription plan. That's 1-800-525-7700. Call now.
And finally, we couldn't do a show like this without remarking on the many letters we've received over the past few months charging media bias. We do our best, of course, but Sally Burnham of Savannah, Georgia writes, "The media is a powerful part of our country, yet in most cases, instead of reporting the positive programs and issues, we hear more negatives. The media has decided to appoint itself the judge and jury. Thanks for listening," she writes, "though I doubt this letter will ever be read." We've read lots of other letters, too, from both sides of the ideological divide, and what we can only attribute to coincidence, we received 2 especially noteworthy pieces of correspondence on the same day. From Joe Cannon of Estill Springs, Tennessee. "When are you going to be honest and change your logo to DLCNN, Democratic Liberal Cable News Network?" And from John O'Connor of Endicott, New York. "May I suggest that you rename the CNN network to the CRN Network, Conservative Republican Network? Honest." Well, thanks for the suggestions. We'll probably stick with Cable News Network. Whoever wins on Tuesday will face many pressing challenges, and we would like to hear what you think the first priority of the president should be once the votes are cast. Send them to us at your turn. CNN Newsmaker, Sunday, 821st Street Northeast, Washington, D.C., 20002, or fax them to us at 404-681-3578. We will try to air them next Sunday. A special thanks, by the way, to Sam Feist and Peter Kohansky for helping us go through all these letters. That concludes this special edition of Newsmaker Sunday. In Washington, I'm Frank Sesno.
For a transcript, send $5 to Journal Graphics, 1535 Grant Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203, or call 1-303-831-9000.
On Election Day, CNN encourages you to vote and to watch your vote count. Stay with CNN for continuous live coverage beginning Tuesday at 4:30 Eastern.
Do you realize just how much difference there is in life insurance rates from one insurance company to the next? For instance, if you're in good health and don't smoke cigarettes,